So we are now recording. Welcome to the September 26, 2022 monthly check-in. This month, we're going to start a series where we're looking at LAU plans and kind of discussing to start out what they are and why you need one. And then I'm going to give you later on in the next couple of months an opportunity to work together with schools who have a like number and demographics as you, and let you work on creating your own LAU plans. But we'll start today with a few updates and just share some information. So I'll go ahead and move to the next screen. Maybe. There we go. All right, as always, we have our same community agreements that we all are going to try to stay engaged, trust in everyone's good intentions, and feel free to speak up if you have something to say. We respect everyone's opinions, and if we don't find closure, we will seek out what information we need for the next time we meet. And then I heard this quote at our most recent TESOL conference in Kansas City this week. It said, "Plant your tree so the future can enjoy the fruits." And I thought that was a very worthy quote that we can repeat. All right, and then our blueprint for ESL for Missouri. We're going to, as kind of like we did last year with reviewing the new WIDA standards, we're going to be looking at things that are mostly involving the schools and teachers in the district as far as how we serve English learners. So we're covering kind of the first half of our blueprint. And again, that is found on the ELD webpage. So our agenda today, we're going to look at what is the LAU plan? Why does my district need one? That's our key question for the day. There is the note taker link. I'll put that one more time for people who joined after I shared it last. Some welcome and updates, and then we'll jump right into the LAU plan. All of the links I'm going to be sharing today are going to be found in the note taker that I just shared in the chat again. One thing that I do want to point out is that I did create a new LinkedIn page for our group to replace Edmodo, which has closed its doors and will no longer be usable. So I will be posting updates and information that I find there for the future, as well as Facebook and Twitter that we've used in the past. So you'll find the link to the LinkedIn page on the note taker, and hopefully you'll join us there and contribute, and we'll be able to share information that way. All right, we're going to start today with a little quiz. I don't know if any of you have used quizzes before, but if you will go to joinmyquiz.com, we'll participate in this together. And let me get it started here. And it's going to give you a code on the screen. There's your join code. So after you get signed in, you'll put in this code. There we go. Wonderful. Hopefully we can see that people are joining. Just get kind of I think I only selected 5 questions, so it's just a short one, a short quiz for us. All right. Wait just a moment more to give anybody else who wants to join with us. Appreciate your participation. All right, I'm going to go ahead and push start. right, so you get to answer the questions on your own, and we'll see who the leader is. Give you a couple more seconds. Just about everyone has gotten to question 5. I see how many of us are playing. 8 people. So I'm waiting to see at least 7 answers on number 5 before we stop. Almost. All right. So I'm going to end. Yes. Jeff got in first place. Let's look at questions. Followed by Tracy and then Ellen. All right, so I want to look at the questions with you. Question number 1 says a LAO plan is only required of public accredited districts. That is, who wants to tell me, true or false? It is false. Everyone, anyone that works with students should have a LAO plan. And I think it gave you justification afterwards. Number 2 says, regardless of whether a district has identified English learners or immigrant students enrolled, the law requires development of a plan that should become, to address specific language instruction education needs should it become necessary to provide such services. That's also true. You should have one whether or not you have students at the time. Just in case one should arise, you will know what you have planned to do. Number 3, once approved, the district rarely needs to modify their program. That's false. You should update your program annually and make sure that you are meeting the needs of your students. Then number 4, most of you got this one incorrect, and let's find out why. An ESL program description should include a regulated schedule of classes that fits into the building's master schedule. Integrative materials used to support that instruction, extracurricular activities, a line item budget, the ESL program and ancillary services as appropriate. Some of that is true, but not all of it is true. It shouldn't fit into the building's master schedule. It should be flexible to fit the needs of your students, their proficiency levels. So having a rigid schedule that just fits the school district schedule is not always what is required. It needs to be a schedule that's flexible and fits the needs of the student. And that's what it says in federal regulation. So we don't look necessarily to the schedule of the school, we look to what fits the needs of our students. And then the last one, everyone got correct. The district is not obligated to provide ESL services until it has more than 20. That is also false. As soon as you have one student, you're obligated to provide services. So this is a fun quiz that you can use with students, and it could be used remotely as we just did. Anytime you can set as many questions as you wish. It can be multiple choice, fill in the blank, however you'd like that to provide the questions. And you can also provide that justification of questions and review together as we did today. Just another tool for your belt if you've never seen quizzes before. You can also embed it in Google Classroom and I believe Canvas as well. So I'll give you a link that you can put those in there. Just a fun activity. But it also gave us a chance to go over some questions here. All right, back to our check-in. You can access the full activity documents. So where I drew the questions from with the link that's provided here, and it's also in your note taker. And you can find the U.S. Department of Education document that gives the specifics to these questions that I asked through the link there. And we did this face-to-face with a group of teachers with an anticipation guide. And if you'd like to have that anticipation guide to use with a group of teachers, or this activity to do sometime in your own district or somewhere, there's a link to that anticipation guide that you can utilize there as well. So I wanted to share that with you. So ESL, ELs, all of these acronyms provide us with an English learner alphabet soup. So we have ELs, ELP or ELD, DLLs, LEAs, LIEP, LEP, Lau versus Nichols. What are all of these things? What do these letters and everything mean? When we're talking to administrators and content area teachers, they often don't understand what all of these letters are. Sometimes I have to look them up just to make sure I remember what each one is. So I've provided you with a list here. So ELs is English learners. ELP or ELD would be English language proficiency or English language development. DLLs, dual language learners, that should say not education, but it's dealing with dual language. LEAs, local education agency, that's either your district or your school. LIEP is your language instruction education program, how you're teaching your students. LEP would be limited English proficient. That also includes parents. And then Lau versus Nichols is a language education. It is the basis of our language education program. I think I left out a word there when I transferred this. So one interesting thing from the conference I attended, the TESOL conference I attended last week, one of our keynote speakers touched on why we still use EL in all of our state documents. And it's the same for our state. It's a federal term that we use so that we're identifying English language learners. If we change what we call our students to DLLs, or a lot of places use multilingual language learners, we could be talking about all students who have a different language or have a different language background. But when we speak about English learners, we're specifically talking about the students in our program. So the federal government recognizes EL as the people or the students who are receiving services. So they're learning the English language. And that's why they continue to use that in federal documentation. So that was a nice to have someone else point that out. Roger Rosenthal also kind of touched on that in his speech. And he's a lawyer that deals specifically with English language learners. So that is the purpose for us using EL and for us to continually use EL in our state documents and anything that we talk about as a state, because that's also the federal way of recognizing the students. Even though those other acronyms and names for our students would fit, this is what the state and the federal government use for government documentation. This is the official definition for an English language learner, anyone ages 3 through 21 who is enrolled or preparing to enroll in elementary or secondary school, not born in the US, or whose native language is a language other than English, and who comes from an environment where language other than English is dominant or partially dominant. So anything that defines, that fits into that definition, we would consider an English language learner, and we would have to screen or assess. So the purpose of Title III is to help ensure that all of our English learners, including immigrants, youth, and children, attain English proficiency and meet the same standards that all students are expected to meet and all children are supposed to meet. And that's part of ESEA and ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. So Title III requires that we increase the English language proficiency of students. We do that in growth from year to year, and also in the number of students who become proficient. So we have 2 ways of measuring that. And that we also provide effective professional development to classroom teachers, to principals and other school leaders, their administrators, and even to other school or community-based people. So your cooks, your aides, people who come into the community and volunteer, any of those could be included in your professional development, as well as inviting charter schools or others, non-public schools in your area. They could also be invited in for your professional development. And also to provide other effective activities and strategies to help our English learners to gain proficiency and to become part of the community. So anything aligned to your program could be aided with Title III. So the whole LAU plan idea, every district is required to have a plan for their English learners that they submit to DESE, whether or not they enroll English learners or not. So your plan may just state that we don't currently have English learners in our district. It's a box that you fill out when you're doing your district plan each year. So that's one part of it, but there's also a LAU plan. And this is from the federal regulation that LEAs are required to provide a core EL program plan or a LAU plan, whether or not they receive title funds. So every district should have a plan, regardless of whether you have students or not, so that you are prepared for how to work with students should you get one. Anyone who gets federal grants of any kind, that includes Title I and Title III, they must be supplemental to your core EL program that's listed on the plan that you develop. Okay. And all staff has to be paid with state or local funds only. You can't pay for EL staff with Title III funds. All EL students must be provided with a core EL program that's described in your plan. And they also have to have a plan for providing that core instruction for the classroom. This is, again, by federal law, that it must be based on effective approaches, methodologies, and it has to demonstrate success every year. So this is a federal requirement for all schools. The federal government, through an outline of the plan, has several points that should be covered in your LAU plan. One is your educational approach, how you're going to identify your students, how you assess your students, what services you provide, your staffing and resources, how you transition students from the program and how you monitor them, other programs that you have made available, and how you evaluate your program. So if you have a LAU plan, it should at least touch on each of these things. And the link at the bottom kind of walks you, gives you the state or the federal document that walks you through this outline and all the points that are involved in it. But we'll look at some of those. So the educational approach, it asks, does your EL plan describe the district's educational approach? What kind of program are you going to have? Is it going to be transitional bilingual, structured immersion, dual language, pull out, push in? You just have to describe what kind of program you're going to be using with your students. And then, is the approach chosen by your district recognized as having a sound approach by experts in the field? Is it something that others, even if it's not on our approved list as a state, is it something that others have said is effective in providing the instruction necessary for English learners? So if you can demonstrate that it's effective, you can use that as your program plan, but it has to be written into a plan, okay? All right, so effective, what does that mean? It should be able to be demonstrated by results to improve English language proficiency and achievement for English learners to be considered effective. So you can't just say we're going to do this and it not have results and continue using it. In order to continue using it, you have to show that it is working with your students and that they are showing growth and within a reasonable amount of time. Okay. So if they're not showing growth, it's time to look at your plan and maybe make some adjustments. That's why we say it needs to be reviewed annually to make sure that it's meeting your needs. Okay. For identification, we have the LAU plan. So we have our LAU. In our LAU plan, we need to talk about the language use survey. So you have to identify what we're using to identify students. And every district in their enrollment package should now have that language use survey that identifies potential English learners. So we don't, it's not the determiner, it tells us whether that is a potential English language learner that would need screening. And oftentimes, you should also have an interview with your parents, not just that language use survey. So if you get the language use survey and it may have questionable answers, bring in your parents, talk to them, and see if you need to go further with the screener and all of the information. Our language use survey is just a tool. It's helping us to identify potential English learners. Everyone's required to complete it. We look at those first 3 questions that ask, what was your first language? What's the language that you're exposed to? What language is used in your home? And if any of those are something other than English, that signals to us that that student needs further investigation. So you need to identify that you're going to use the language use plan or language use survey in your plan. And then you also need to identify who's involved in this process. Is this something that's done in an intake center? Is this something that's going to be done at each school by the school secretaries? How are they going to be trained? Who's going to tell them the process and who needs to be notified when they are identified as answering one of those questions other than English? What time frame will you use after you identify the students in getting them screened or interviewed? So all of this also needs to be outlined in your plan. So thinking to your own plan, if you have one in place, have you spelled all of this information out? The next thing is that assessment. So you have to give the students a screener after you identified them as being potential English learners. Who's going to test them and how are those people trained? They should go through the WIDA screening training, but you need to know who's going to be giving the assessment and make sure each person that might be giving the assessment gets the necessary training. And is this assessment timeframe shared with anyone? Who are you going to share this with? The guidelines now say that any student who is identified as a potential English learner has to be screened within 30 days. In the past, it was if they came mid-year, you had 10 days. Now it's any time that they enroll, you have 30 days to assess them. And in your LAU plan, you need to also describe what assessments used. That 30-day time frame has to be spelled out. Kind of a description of the test that it's going to test: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Also, our separate kindergarten test, if they're taking it at the beginning of the year, it's only going to be the listening and speaking. And you won't take the reading and writing. But if they come later in the year, they would take all four. So that needs to be included in your description of the assessment. Also in your LAU plan, it needs to say where you're going to keep the results of these tests. And then how are you going to share them, and who are you going to share them with? So these are all things that also need to be spelled out in a LAU plan. Then the next step is describing your services. You need to talk about what type of services your district provides. So a lot of times when we look at LAU plans from different districts, they all use kind of a cookie cutter LAU plan that they've found somewhere, and they don't talk specific to the services that their district is willing to provide or able to provide. So be specific to your district when you look at your LAU plan. Are you going to provide dual language services? If you're not, don't include it in your LAU plan. If you're only doing push in, don't put push or pull out services in your LAU plan. And again, this is why you look at it annually. And if you're going to make some changes, you'll want to go back and update that information. What's the policy for implementing these EL services? Are any other teachers going to be involved with the ESL services? Who provides the services? If you're a small district and they're going to be provided by a reading teacher that's dually certified, or if the assistant principal is the person who has gotten certified or had some professional development and they're going to be the ones working with your English learners, that needs to be included in your plan. Are they being pulled from classes? How long will they be pulled for classes? Are your class periods going to be 30 minutes? Are they going to be different for different proficiency levels? Do they have access to all subjects? Are they only going to be pulled out of certain class times? That's all something you need to take into consideration when you're creating your plan. Also, are comparable facilities provided for your English learner program? That was one of the things that the lawyer Roger Rosenthal, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Roger, he said it is not proper for anyone to put your English learner program in a closet or a noisy cafeteria, that those are all instances where you might be looking at a lawsuit if someone wanted to bring it to the attention of OCR or someone like that. So this quote, anytime money is allocated in a budget, a person reading the plan should be able to find the related activity that goes with that funding. So they'll want to look and see, what are you using this money for? Have you hired teachers? Have you provided a facility? That should all be visible in your plan to be following the rules and regulations. Castaneda, we talked about this a lot last year when we were talking about the new WIDA standards and everything. This has been the big push of the U.S. Department of Ed. They did several workshops related to Castaneda last year. So it's a big deal to them. and they're standing behind this 100%. This is what they're pushing every time they talk. Your program has to have a sound approach. So you have to spell out that program that you're going to use, and it has to be recognized. It has to be reasonably implemented. It has to have the time frames spelled out. How are you going to meet the needs of the students? And then it has to be evaluated for outcomes. Is it being successful? So those three things are very important. And that goes back to staffing and resources. So I know in MSIP 5, we had the nice little chart. That is still in effect for right now. And the ratio of student to teacher for English language learners should be comparable to the ratio of students to teacher in the regular classroom. So that's what our MSIP plan says. It didn't spell it out as specifically in MSIP 6, but it still is saying the same thing. Any ESL classroom should have a comparable student to teacher ratio. So if you have more students in your EL to teacher classes than you do in classroom to teacher, then that's something you need to look at. Also, the qualifications for instructors, they should have the same level of certification that you expect of a classroom teacher for the program they're teaching. And if not, what steps is the district taking to recruit and hire those teachers? So you have to have that in your plan too. If you don't currently have a teacher, you need to say something about, at this time, we don't have but this many students, so they're being served by this person. In the future, if we have more than this number of students, we will actively pursue finding a teacher to fill that need. So it needs to be spelled out something in that manner in your program, in your LAU plan. And then does your program have the resources necessary for your program? Have you bought books for your EL program? Have you secured some sort of online resource? All of this is important. And then how are these resources reviewed? Are they able to be reviewed by the teacher? Are they looked at annually to make sure that they're effective? So all of that is important. All right, the next step is transitioning and monitoring. So we have 4.7 as our exit. That should be spelled out in the LAU plan, but we also provide for portfolio evidence. So that process needs to be spelled out. You need to have whatever rubric you're going to use to evaluate your portfolio included in your plan. And then also who's going to look at the student. It should not be one person's job. It needs to be a team. So how are you going to put that team together? Who's going to head up the team? All of that needs to be included in your LAU plan. Who's going to monitor the student after they transition or exit out of the program? And does your plan document how and how often the student will be monitored? Will you have a checklist? Will you have a form that's completed? Who's going to complete that form? And then a copy of that form should be included in your plan. And then also, what is the process for informing parents? Because if you exit the student, that needs to be reported to the parents. And then monitoring the student, it's a good idea to keep the parents informed then as well. We've monitored your child, they're doing great. Or we're monitoring your child and their grades are not where they need to be, so we'd like to pull them back into the program. Those are all communications that you need to keep ongoing. And that should be part of your plan, explaining that to parents that if your student's not doing well, we may pull them back into the program. So that should be part of your LAU plan as well. All right, other programs. So making sure that the staff is aware of the district's policy regarding equal opportunity for English learners, that they have the right to participate in any program that the school offers. So the students, if they qualify for the gifted, or if they could qualify for the gifted, they should be in the gifted program. If they qualify for special education services, they should have both EL and special ed program. Sports, any clubs, anything that your school offers, the students should have access to. Also, when it comes to testing or assessments, are there special accommodations that are being offered to the students? That needs to be included. And then making sure that all of these things are communicated to parents and taking into account those language barriers. Making sure that they have an opportunity to participate. Also included in this might be your student handbook. Is it translated so that your parents can understand and your students can understand what things are offered, what things they should and shouldn't do? So this is all needs to be accessible to your parents. And then, as I said earlier, evaluation each year. Districts are required to modify their programs if they prove to be unsuccessful after a legitimate trial period. So that's why we evaluate on a 3-year period. So after 3 years, if your students are not showing growth or none of your students are exiting the program, that would be when we might say, hey, it's time to look at your program and make sure whatever you're doing is effective. And we might say, what are you using? And what materials are you using? Do you have enough staff? So that's when we'll take that deeper look at what your program has built into it and what's in your LAO plan and whether you're following your LAO plan. Okay, so in the note taker, I linked at the bottom here sample plans. So what I am going to do is I'm going to ask for you to look through those plans before our next meeting and pick out some things that you like and things that you question and things you'd like more information on. I've selected some from different states and then also places here in Missouri. So if you click on that, it will take you to a folder where I have collected several. If you have others that you'd like to have included for people to look at, you're welcome to send those to me and I can include them in this listing if you want others to see yours. And we're going to, next time we get together, we're going to come together and look at those different plans or look at the things that you've found in these plans that you like. And then we will break into breakout rooms and each of you will get a chance to kind of talk through what your needs are and what your plan and some ideas that you have for your plan. I'm going to provide, or I did provide for you a template for this one, a sample LAO plan that you can utilize. And yes, I'll share the note taker again. There you go. So there is a sample template that you could kind of look at if you want to start kind of putting a plan together utilizing this template. These are the different links from the federal government, kind of just addressing the needs of your LAO plan to give you some ideas. But we will continue this both next month and then the following month. My hope is that we will have created our own updates to our LAO plans or created one if you don't have one that you can bring with you. And then again, we'll get into breakout rooms and kind of walk through your own LAO plan and ask for feedback of your like-sized districts, kind of a collaborative meeting where you can work together on that. Okay, so that's our introduction to the LAO plan. Now I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about some updates. There's the link to the template as well and the resources I utilized. So I skimmed over at the very, sorry for the scrolling. I skimmed over at the very beginning and said that we had links to updates in, there we go, the note taker. So let me look at those with you real quick. They're at the top of the note taker. All right, so with WIDA, And I'm going to make this bigger. Hang on just a second. Oh, I thought I was going to make it bigger. There we go. All right. So there are some updates from WIDA. WIDA and DRC are going to be doing a question and answer webinar October 11th and then October 13th. And then the pre-testing schedule, they'll have a webinar on October 18th. And you can get to those through the link that's provided here. There will be updates to the COS service device. So they're going to be down for a little bit on Thursday, September 29th, just sharing that information. Pre-test ordering of materials, September 27th. They'll have information on that through their webinar page. So if you miss it, you can always log on to the secure portal under webinars and get that information and watch those. They record these so that you can go back and look at them. And then I'm going to put this plug in again for the WIDA events and DESI events. If you're interested in helping with the new access test, we need people to help with each of these items: alignment, blueprint review, content review, passage review, item writing, some descriptions, stimulus review. If you're interested in assisting with any of that, either at WIDA level or DESI level, utilize one of these links to fill out a form, and we will we'll form a committee based on what we receive. And WIDA will contact you if they have the openings and still need people. And then I wanted to share again that we will be having self-paced workshops this year as part of our WIDA PD. There is this Dear Principal letter if you need something to justify with your principal why you should be able to attend these workshops that we're having. This flyer will take you to the list of the 10 workshops that we have available this year to you. There are some that are specific to different content areas. And as I stated before, any educator in Missouri is able to participate in these. They can contact WIDA directly and ask for access to the secure portal, or you can contact me, send me an email, and I can add teachers that would like to participate in these self-paced workshops. And again, it can be any teacher, classroom teacher, it could be a principal, administrator, anyone you think would like to partake in these, they are more than welcome. You can do them individually, one-on-one. There are some districts that set up like a group study session and they go through the different workshops together. So it's up to you how you do it, but those are available until August 31st of 2023. So you have all year and you can go back to them. This year, I also purchased for our state some accompanying paperwork that goes with it. So you can do, they have supplemental materials that we didn't have before. So those are available. And then we have two that are not the self-paced, but they are facilitated workshops. One is for language specialists engaging multilingual newcomers. That one is October 17th, 25th, and November 7th. So it's 3 sessions. They are from 3:30 to 5, each of those 3 days. So you need to attend all 3. They're all 3 different. And it's through the secure portal. They'll have the materials there. That's where you will log on after you sign up. But if you sign up, I will submit your names and then you will get, it will get added to your secure portal list of activities. So after you've signed up, you will find that in your secure portal. And then also we have another one that is language. It's for language specialists who are interested in learning more about the new WIDA standards and would like to go out and teach about them to other people. And that is on the I think it's on our DESE calendar, but if you're interested in that, please contact your mail specialist from your region and tell them that you're interested and they will help to sign you up. So this next part is about our new training courses for 2023. They are now all on the secure portal and you need to sign up through there. I like them much better this year. I think they're more user friendly. You can pause and continue. It's broken into small parts. You do have to take the assessment and pass with 80% in order to give any of the assessments this year. And then there is that link to the LinkedIn page that I created, and I've gone back and taken some of the information from Edmodo that we had posted before and moved it over to the LinkedIn page so we don't lose that information. So you'll find some things already populated there, but please feel free to visit and look for updates and things on that resource. All of our PD opportunities are on the DESE curriculum calendar, and I had meant to put a link there. I will add a link there so you have it. It's on the curriculum page of the DESE website. And then we will continue to have our monthly check-ins all this year. September's today. Again, we started the LAO series, should be included in your district plan. And I've provided you again with those samples. Next month, we have a WIDA workshop that is on October 25th, which is our Monday. So we're going to change our check-in date to that following Tuesday. So it will be October 26th. And then again, as I said, we'll have breakout sessions. In November, we'll finalize and discuss our LAO plans. We do not have a December meeting, and I have a few things in the works for starting in January. So I'll post those as soon as they're available. And that's all I have to share. If you have resources, I've left this on here for the end where we can share resources with each other. Someone shared a template for cultural presentations, slides and docs version of another cultural template. And then I have a folder of different culturograms and things from different countries that I've collected over several years, and you'll find those in this folder. So if you want information that you can share in your school to do cultural days or celebrations, this will give you some links of information. But please, if you have anything else that you feel would be great for other teachers, continue to add those in here, and we will keep this as an ongoing list of things to share. And then at the bottom, if you still have questions or if you have an idea that you would like to see in our monthly check-ins, include that there, and I will make sure that we address it somehow. All right, so I am finished talking. Anything that you would like to ask a question about or any comments that you have, we'll take those right now. So I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That was fast and furious.
Can we quick question? This is Guadalupe. Some schools are being asking about the teacher leadership training.
Yes.
When you mentioned to train others, would that be other schools districts or just within their school district?
It could be either one. So if they want to train, if they feel comfortable and would like to train others outside their district, that's fine. It's just giving them the opportunity to learn more about our standards and giving them the information they need if they want to share it with others. So we're not requiring them to share with anyone specific. It's just giving them the information should they wish to share.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything else we can answer for you today? Any district questions or EL questions are open game. So any questions you might have. I did share last time a new frequently asked questions document that we've created. We are in the process of reorganizing the ELD page and doing some updates. Our webpage person is leaving us, so we're trying to get a lot of people are trying to get him to do a lot of things before he leaves. So it may take me a little while to get the updates up there, but they will definitely be changed. And if you're interested in that FAQ that I shared, it's on last month's note taker, or you can send me an email and I'm happy to share that with you as well. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is because I'm new to my position. I just open it up for anybody to tell me what to do. But so I have a family of South African students this year, and they indicated that English is spoken at home on a language survey.
Yes.
But several teachers are now coming to me and they're saying that they probably need some help. So how could I tastefully approach that? Call parent? I don't know.
Yes, well, as I said, the language use survey is just one of the tools we use. You can also use teacher recommendation. So if they didn't indicate on the language use survey that they speak another language, but your teachers have provided you with enough information, you can screen based on the teacher recommendation. You don't have to have parent permission to screen. But after you do screen the student, you can contact the parent and say, hey, teachers were concerned, so I went ahead and screened your child. These are the results. Would you like to come in and discuss with me? I think your child would benefit from these services. And just have that friendly conversation with them saying, hey, we want to provide them the best education possible, and we think they would benefit from this, and get their approval that way. That makes sense?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Anything else? This is your time to get to ask questions. So jump on it.
I have a question as well.
Sure, Molly.
So I'm also brand new to my position, and I noticed in our student information system that they didn't have the ELs marked as receiving Title III funds. Are ELs automatically receiving Title III funds? Is that something I should change in our system?
It depends on your school size and your population size. So if you get Title III funds in your district, you will identify them as receiving Title III funds. So I don't know your school size.
Okay. I mean, we're like, our whole district is a little over 1,000, and I've got about 40 ELs.
Then definitely, yes, you would go in and you mark them as Title III.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's part of their all of their checklist when you're filling out their form. And I think that's something else that I need to create for people, because I get a lot of those questions as far as coding and when you code and how you do, which of those alphabet soup you put each time. So one of the best documents that you can look at is the Moses manual. It gives you each period, a reporting period, what's required. But I could definitely go through that and kind of make a flow chart for you that says, this is what you need in October. These are the things you fill in, and you check this if this. So I will work on something like that for you. That might make it easier for everyone, since I'm getting a lot of those questions this time of the year. Any other questions? This is a safe space, don't worry. There's
I have a
also,
question.
go ahead,
Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask about the terms for the students, you know, the alphabet soup. Is Missouri adopting the ML term, or are we sticking with ELs?
Yeah, because it is a federal way of identifying, we will continue to use EL in all of our documents. At the local level, you can identify them in your paperwork as long as you spell out what it means, and that's fine. But just know, as a state, we will continue to do what the federal government says and use that term EL because it identifies them as English learners, and that's where what the money is tied to and what the funding is tied to. So we have to follow the federal description.
Thank you.
I was going to say that we're on the note taker where it asks for something I didn't understand or anything that you need to know additionally and you don't want to say it here. It's anonymous, so you can put your questions in there, and I check it each month after we're finished to see if anyone's added a question that I can address. And I'll try to answer it either in the note taker or at our next meeting. So if you want to add a question, you can either email me directly or you can put it there, something I didn't understand, and I will address it. So if you don't want to talk about it here and you want it to be private, then you're definitely welcome to send me a private message or add it to our note taker. And if you would, there's also a link at the top of the note taker for the evaluation. Every month, my bosses check to make sure that these are still beneficial to people. So if you're finding them of benefit, please tell us so on the note taker. If they're not, tell us that too, so I'll know what to fix. If you have no more questions, we can call it a day. But I will stay on in case you do.
Thanks so much for having these meetings. They're always really helpful.
Well, thank you for attending. I appreciate all of you. You don't know how much I appreciate us having English language development teachers in our state. They are in short supply everywhere. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you have ideas or needs, please let me know. It helps me to know what we should do in the future, what other things we should address, or what other topics you're interested in. So any questions or any topics that you want discussed, please let us know. I'm happy to entertain them. All right, my friends, if that's it, I'm going to call it a day, and I will look forward to seeing you in October.